Beloved, welcome back. Today we have an old school unboxing, kind of my initial impressions on one of the most expensive tools that I've bought in some time. I've been putting this off for a long time, and then with the two big, here's my philosophy on tools. Here's how you acquire tools. So I think it was Rahm Emanuel that said, never let a crisis go to waste. Meaning, don't let a crisis go to waste where you can't capitalize on that and acquire the tools that you need. So two things. I need to do some cabinet work in here, ripping big sheets of plywood. In the past, I've always used my table saw, and what ends up happening is that it's such a burden to try to deal with those 4x8 sheets, especially when you're 3/4 plywood and you're working by yourself, that I end up not doing them because I don't want to wrestle the table saw out. I just don't want to go through, just all the deals. So this is basically a table saw in a box, what I'm told. Never used one, never held one. Let's pull it out, set it up, and see where it takes us. If you don't know what a track saw is, you're in good company because I've never used one either. I ended up buying the whole kit. This was about $750 for the M18 PROhO version, of course. Track saw, cordless, comes with a dust collector. It did come with this really nice bespoke box with the inserts on it. With such a, I guess, a delicate, not a delicate, but such a precision tool, I thought, well, for an extra $150, you got a battery, you got the case, you got a charger, so I just went with that. I also got upsold. I had no intention of getting this, but this is the M12 pin nailer. This is 23 gauge. Look at these little tiny guys. 1 3/8. So this is going to be very nice, cordless. My old one, is pneumatic, runs off the compressor. So now we're going to go cordless just to be able to stick things together. When you work by yourself, this is like having a third hand. Oh, but the spending doesn't stop with the saw alone. Now you've got to buy the track. Now, Makita, Festool, and Milwaukee are all interchangeable, the parts. That's what I was told. They didn't have the track that I wanted, so I ended up getting a couple Makita pieces. I got two 55s, which bolt together, and that gives you the ability to be able to cut a full 8-foot sheet. Looks like even on a diagonal. The secret sauce for this system really is the way this track works with your layout. So this little piece of rubber right here, it actually runs too long. If we were to cut right now, the blade is actually going to cut that rubber, but that's what we want. We're going to do a one-time pass here together where we'll trim this right to the blade so that in future layout where this is really going to shine is, let's say, for example, so in the past, I want to rip this 3/4 inch Baltic birch plywood cut it in half lengthwise, right? Make it 2x8. I would have had to have created a bunch of tables and sawhorses, and by myself very carefully tried to run this huge thing through a table saw, or I could snap a line and run a skill saw but have not very good results and not a very clean edge. This eliminates all that. So rather than trying to take this huge piece of sheet goods to a tool, now we're bringing the tool to the sheet good. Okay, I think I understand all of the controls. So the ones that really matter. So there are some, here's the bottom. You see these adjustments right here? These are going to tighten it up to the track. And just to prove that all the stuff is compatible, we have a Makita track, Milwaukee saw, and Festool connectors. So all three seem to work together. But you see how this has got a little bit of play on it? Now, if we just turn these until we get some friction and then back it off, there's one in the front, one in the rear. That's going to set this to our track. So now, no movement whatsoever. I did buy one accessory. I bought clamps. I had one guy tell me that the clamps were required. I had two guys tell me that they weren't, but they weren't very expensive. So let's see how these things work here. It's a very well-designed clamp. Will I ever use them? Probably not. There's such good rubber. It's so sticky on the bottom of this track that it seems to hold itself fine without the clamps. All right, gentlemen, we are ready to cut the rubber on the track. Now, this is going to be a very important process because if this isn't cut properly, then this is what we're going to set the saw blade to. This is going to be critical. So as I was looking at this, and I thought, how am I going to overcut this like on the ends where it matters the most when the saw is all wiggly because it's out of the track? So I watched a YouTube video, and I'll show you what the process was that the guy showed me. Now we'll stop short, and we'll take this apart and flip it so that we can cut the center section. If you look right there, you can see how the blade cuts. That way, when you put that on your mark, you are exactly at the edge of the curve. It seems to me a guy's really going to want to take care of this track. You're going to want to treat it as gentle, if not gentler, than your level, because this is the precision of the saw is going to depend upon that this track is true or not. Now we can swap these, and the uncut section is going to be in the middle. Now we're only going to have to do this once, obviously. I think my PROhO sticker's dragging on the saw a little bit. We are ready to make our final cut. We haven't trimmed from here to here, and so I guess we'll just do that now. Wow, this saw feels very high quality. It feels like a precision instrument. All right, gentlemen, I think we're ready to make our very first cut. There's nothing like being thrown into the deep end. I've got 5 sheets of 3/4 inch 13 ply Baltic birch plywood, some of the finest plywood that you can buy, free of void, meaning that if you cut this on end grain, there are no gaps, so you can expose everything. It's really, really nice stuff. Let's rip this in half from a 4x8 to 2 2x8s, and this will be the first cut with a track saw. When you're building furniture or you're doing cabinet grade work, a regular tape measure for me is not precise enough. They're a little bit inconsistent. You have to be careful. These ends can be bent. There's just all sorts of issues that come up with it. I prefer using a ruler for real precise work like this. In the past, this would have been a very difficult cut to make with precision. I would have either had to try to push this through a table saw or spent 15 minutes trying to find a straight board as a guide to run a skill saw down, having disappointing results. Now all we need to do is to push this track right to our line, and we have a perfectly straight cut. Do we need the clamps? I don't think so. It's so sticky. And even here where I'm reaching over and cutting over the center of the board, I don't feel like I can push that or move that at all. So let's just go for it. All right, let's give it a go. I don't know what the best side to operate from is. I guess we need to set our depth, don't we? We'll set our depth for 3/4, so that's half and 1. And it's at the top of this mark with the double line for the track. So there's our 3/4 mark right there. I was going to say that doesn't look right, but that's because we're not on the track. That will be 3/4. Oh, there's even a writhing blade that comes down there. I forget, I've got to keep that pushed down. I'm not used to that. Very smooth. This feels like a very high quality tool. Man, that is awesome. That's my very first time using one of these. Did we get all the way through? Oh yeah, we did. Look at that. Goodness, look at that. That would have been so hard for me to do before that track saw. And look at how precise that is. I used a piece of 1x4 there. I've got 3 pieces that I'll just use for sacrificial pieces while we're doing the cabinet work, but man, that is awesome. Now we've got bite-sized pieces that a guy can actually manage. I don't mind packing around a 2x8, but a 4x8 is a whole nother deal. The $1,000 sounds very shocking up front at the cost of the tool, but when you start thinking about your productivity and what you're able to do, and let's say you don't already have a shop table saw, if you can have this and not have to deal with that and deal with the storage and just the complication of it, I mean, why would you ever use a table saw unless you have a full-on dedicated bespoke shop and you're a cabinet guy? You know, I could see that. But for PROhO, that needs to be versatile, where you could take this and trim the edge of deck boards or take it outside or use it in the shop to replace a huge expensive table saw, I mean, that's a no-brainer for me. With this track saw and the nail gun, I think we have everything that we need to get going on our gear lockers. And this is actually going to be the first side panel right here to give a little perspective of how far those are going to stick out. Goodness, this is going to be a great addition. Regarding my initial impressions, this is a very well put together, nice tool. I have nothing to compare it to. I've not used any of the competitors or the other brands. I'm sure that they're all probably pretty good. Milwaukee, you know, they seem to be at the top of the game right now. I don't know what's better out there. I am down to, I don't have, so I resisted the going fully cordless, and what really convinced me was when I see, we've had some professional contractors out, you know, doing the foundation and such, and when I see these guys that do really high quality work that are 100% cordless or 99%, that tells me, okay, it's time. If these guys that are making their living with cordless tools are doing it and they're reliable and the quality is there, then PROhO obviously is not going to have any beef with those tools. So the last tools that I didn't have that were wireless was a pin nailer, and this is the little M12. I haven't used it yet either, but we'll put it to work on this project. So this is going to be very handy. This is going to be like having an extra pair of hands when you want to stick something. And the nails of the brads, these are 23 gauge. Look how small those are. 1 3/8 max. But little tiny wires with essentially no head or very little head, you can face nail these and most people are not even going to see it. It's not going to leave a dent. So that's going to be super handy. So I had a pin nailer, but it required a compressor. So now we're cordless with this, and then the cordless jigsaw. I also didn't, and you know, it sucks having a cord. When you take all of your tools and you go down in a remote location and all of them except for the one that you need, I had one jigsaw with a cord, so now I've got to run a generator down there. So that's it. So the only thing really left is like a big cordless whole hog, but I don't use that enough to justify it. So I think we're good for a while. All right, that's it. There is so much going on right now, I don't even know where to start. I'm busier than a one-arm paper hanger around here. We just stripped the forms for the foundation of the cabin. We've got a bunch of gun stuff. We got some mod, I don't even know where to go. So we're just gonna start checking them off the list. But we'll be moving into cabinet mode here pretty soon. May God bless you and your families. Please keep us in your prayers, and we'll see you all on the next video.